Hey guys, I'm Bex,
And I'm Grace.
and we're the Packer Sisters.
Tune in each week as we process through everyday topics and personal experiences. We have had so much fun having guests on our show, so this week we decided that we should invite another friend to join us in today's conversation, which we are going to be talking about adulting, which is something very relevant, I feel like.
Yeah, I think everyone can kind of relate to this topic. So today our friend Adrianna is joining us. Thanks for being here, Adri.
You're welcome. Thanks for inviting me, you guys. I was so excited.
We're so excited to have you.
As part of our podcast tradition, we wanted to ask you a couple quirky questions so our listeners kind of get to know you. So, of course, my first question is, what is your favorite kind of tea?
Like matcha tea right now. I don't know if you've tried that.
That's pretty good. That's
Like
pretty
matcha
good.
tea. But I do also love my London fogs. I have gone back to those quite a bit, which Becca had actually introduced me to,
Yep.
which I still love to this day. And we met that way in college when we were going to college together because I would drink tea every day. And then I was like, this girl looks so cool. And look at her while we're all waiting for class. And there she is reading her book that we need to be reading for this class. She's making good choices. I want to hang out with her.
Yeah.
And then I started bringing her tea every day, and then she started bringing me tea sometimes and introduced me to London fogs.
And I brought
absolutely
you,
love
like,
them.
I brought you hot cocoa.
Yes.
And, like, you'd bring me tea, so we would, like, trade off every day.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
that was
somehow,
our thing.
I feel like marshmallows got into that
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. Because one time I went over to your guys' house, and I remember we had a cocoa mix that had like little marshmallows in it, but then I think at that time also was when we were like buying gifts for people, and one of the gifts were like specialized marshmallows. So they had like, I think they were Wonder Made marshmallows. I think that's what they were. Yeah. So yeah, awesome gifts.
They were yummy.
I remember we were in class one day and we were having to watch kind of like a scary movie. I think it was
Pan's Labyrinth.
Yes, and you had brought me a little box with one marshmallow in it, and you're like, here, like, you can eat this during the scary movie, and I'm just like, thank you. And it was like a chocolate mint marshmallow.
Okay, yeah. I did get that. Yeah. Because I mean, they sell you a box, I think of like 12 or 9 or something, but yeah, I gave you one. Because I kept a lot of those.
But it was in such a cute little box. You know,
yeah, you get them off eBay. Just little boxes.
I love it. What a precious gift.
I just like ate it slowly.
I feel like there should be a thing known as the comfort marshmallow.
Oh, probably.
During those tense times.
Yeah. Stress reliever.
There was a lot of stuff going on. But it was so nice because, you know, we had our tea or our hot cocoa, our marshmallows, we enjoyed it. We had a good time. So yeah, tea brings people together.
It really does. Yes. And then I remember, like, I introduced you to my sister and my family, and the rest was history. So now Adri is really good friends with, like, our whole family.
She's like a part of the family, essentially.
That's her.
I mean, there was one time where Becca accidentally called me her other sister. So I really am.
So yeah, my other sister, you know.
Oh, I love it. Yes.
It was like when we were all going to go to the movies together.
Yes.
Yeah.
What did we see? Do you remember? Because
I don't.
It was probably something like the Lego movie.
Or was
something.
it something like an Avengers movie maybe?
I think it was an Avengers movie.
Oh yes, we did see, like, I think it was the first Avengers, wasn't it?
Wow,
Like,
that dates us just a little.
It was an Avengers movie, Becca.
okay, we won't say which one. Don't want to give away too much here.
Nope. All right, I got one more question for you, which is totally different than what we've been talking about.
Okay.
It's a would you rather question, and I don't know if you glanced at this at all. Would you rather have all traffic lights you approach be green or never have to stand in line again?
Maybe the traffic lights. I honestly don't think I care either way, because I'm not like, what do they call like an angry driver? What's that called? Like road rage or anything? Like I don't have road rage. Like I've never had an issue with that. But like when you're running late, and then it turns red, like you're like, really? And you're like now going to be the first car to just be waiting. But standing in line, like I've never had an issue with that. I mean, the only time I would ever think that standing in line would be an issue is when you're at a theme park and you want to get onto Magic Mountain or something like that. But I don't make it to theme parks that often, so I feel like the getting green lights more often or all the time would be more beneficial.
Well, we're really excited to actually jump into this topic today.
Yeah, let's do it, because this topic was sent in actually by one of my friends, and she just kind of wanted to know more about, adulting and what it's like to transition out of high school, because, she's a senior in high school. You get those jitters around that age, so.
Yeah, but we figured that beyond just talking also about that we would also throw in kind of some of those goofy things that come along with adulthood too. So this will probably be more like having a bunch of discussion prompts, and then we'll kind of just like hop into it and kind of share our thoughts on them.
Yeah,
that works.
And hopefully this podcast will help a lot of, young people who are intimidated by growing up. So,
and for the people who are adults, obviously, like, you can enjoy this with us and laugh, looking back at all the crazy things that you did in your life.
Well, I was kind of thinking, since my friend, she's in high school, maybe we should kind of start with, that feeling of being a senior. You're gonna be leaving your high school and you have to decide on your college, your career, basically just all in one, and just like that pressure that you feel, like, have you guys experienced that?
Yeah, definitely. I think my stuff was a little different, which I feel like is just kind of like a strange thing altogether. It doesn't go with the whole adulting, I think, typical adulting thing. So I don't think we'll get too far into it. But like, I feel like a lot of parents like really encourage their kids to like go to college and all that stuff. And like, of course my mom was encouraging of it, but like I never really had anyone talk to me about it. So like I didn't really know, and I didn't understand. Like I didn't understand the importance. And like I know at school they're like, okay, you're gonna like go to a college, and I'm like, well, am I? Like I don't even know like what. So like I felt really quite lost during that whole transition. So I was thinking about going to a community college in Spokane or something like that. And I had some like lady help me with like making a resume and a letter of interest and all this kind of stuff. And I don't know. And I just like, I really honestly just realized that I didn't know what I was doing. And then I took more than a year off and did not do anything, and then came back to Wenatchee and met you guys and went to college there. I just finally got to a point where I was like, I need to do something with my life because I haven't. So like I 100% like support people going like when they're young, because like I feel like I spent so much time not knowing and doing a whole lot of nothing and stuff, but it is like really scary. And like there are so many people who are like, well, I'm not committed to this, or I really don't know what I'm going after, but that's how you figure it out. Actually, I didn't tell you, Becca, but there was a student of mine who I was with some middle schoolers, but he was telling me, he's like, well, I don't think I'm going to make it to college or anything like that because I don't know what I want to do for the rest of my life. I'm like, and like, I'm going to school now, and it took me a while to figure it out. And I was like, and I have a friend of mine, Becca, who is going for one type of engineering, but ended up switching later on to something else. And I was like, that's how you figure it out. You need to be in it.
Yeah.
So yeah, like it's just a process.
It really is.
Words of wisdom for sure.
Well, what about you? Because I'm talking to Grace. What about you, Grace? I don't want to say you that's so vague when people are listening. But you took a gap year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you think that helped you decide what you wanted to do, or like were you still just not really focused on like, you know, the idea of, oh, I'm gonna go to college and I'm gonna do this?
Yeah, I remember senior year of high school not feeling really motivated to go to college. Like everybody that I went to school with was going to college. Most of them were going to go to the University of Washington and Western Washington, all of the Washington State colleges, you know. And so there was a little pressure to feel like, oh, I should probably just go because everybody else was going.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I recognize is Becca and I are privileged in a sense that like our parents have been through college, and so they were able to help us kind of promote college and also understand the application process and things like that. But I think I did apply to a few different state colleges at the time, but they just didn't feel quite right. I did look at going to Northwest University, which was a Christian private college up in Kirkland area. But I went, and like it was really nice to be there, but it just didn't feel like quite the right time, and I didn't feel like I wanted to waste my time and money on an education that I wasn't sure that I was going to use.
And I've been there too, for sure. Yeah.
Right. So what ended up happening, and we've talked about this in earlier podcasts, is I took that gap year doing that discipleship program through my church. And despite all of the like super weird crap that went down, I think that year reinvigorated me to think about education and to return it with like a really ferocious kind of like I was really passionate then about getting my college degree and about becoming like a career woman because I think it was also in spite of all the ideologies of being told like as a woman you're just meant to get married and be the child bearer, you don't really go to college, you're really just going to be the mom. And I was like, I mean, sure, but then what? Like there's got to be more to life than that. So I think taking a gap year, and I've seen it, I feel like with a lot of people, it helps you kind of recenter yourself as long as you are able to kind of gauge when you need to take that next step. Because I think if you don't take the next step, then you'll kind of get stuck there. But maybe setting that kind of timeline almost for yourself to say, okay, I can take some space, get to know myself, and kind of figure out what I want to do.
Yeah, I would also say like for my time that I wasn't going to school or anything like that, like it was still always like something I want to do in the future. But then I realized like all I was doing was working at Best Buy and not doing anything more than that when I wanted to. And then it got to a point where, you know, I wanted to have a relationship, I wanted to have a family, I wanted to provide, and I wanted to be like a good example towards my children and all that kind of stuff. And it just got to that point where it's like, this is the next step and this is what I want to do. So that gap year helped with that too. Mine was a little bit longer than a year. And it's definitely not that it was time wasted, because also like it is a time where I got to get to those realizations and get to know myself more. But also like, do I wish I would have just jumped into it? For sure. but it all works out the way it has to for each individual person.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, because, like, I know for me, differently than you guys, I kind of was just thrown straight into university life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I kind of sometimes wish I'd taken a year just to, like, work or, you know, just understand myself better, but it worked out well. But I think all of us after, you know, going to college are kind of like, was that worth it? Like, but then down the road you realize it kind of was, because you think it's for just the education, but you realize later, no, it's also like networking, learning how to be yourself, learning how to work with other people and solve problems. Like, it's not just about the grades.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. And I think about you, Adri, because, you know, you're saying you took off a little more time than a year, but as I look at you now, like, you are fiercely pursuing a degree in education so you can become a teacher and change the lives of your students and have that skill set. And to me, you know, if I guess I would think, looking back, you know, a few years ago, would you have seen that for yourself? And so it's like those years were so needed in order to get to where you're at, because now you're ready. Nobody's going to stop you. You're just going, and you're going to kick butt, and you're going to get that degree, and then you're going to teach kids. And I think that's amazing.
Yeah, and it's like you said it, like you felt like it within you, like this is what you had to do, and it's like you had the fire underneath you, and I feel it for now too. Like this is what it is, and it's gonna take all of me, because at the same time I do all my stuff online, and you know, sometimes not having to be forced to go to a classroom makes you a little lazy, but I've gotten really good about it. And there's just nothing that can get in the way. Like this is what I want to do.
Well, I kind of wanted to throw in maybe a fun question too after that. No, I have a list. So I have this really neat book called Adult-ish, and it's written by Christina Vanko.
Okay.
And it's like an animated, like, journal-y kind of deal where you can write like reflective things and doodle in it. And so I took some questions from hers because they're actually really cool to like talk about. And some of them are a little embarrassing, but
let's do this.
We're just gonna post this for everyone to listen to. That's totally fine. Our faces aren't attached to it, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, they can't find us.
Okay. Okay. Ooh, so this is one that my husband and I kind of laughed about. What's the first song that made you feel out of touch with kids today? And you need to list the artist or the name of the song.
The thing is like, well, I've worked with middle schoolers for so long now. So like I listen to a lot of the stuff that they play, and like I kind of get it too, because yes, I'm older, but like I also like to go dancing and stuff. So like I'm listening to a lot of the stuff that they play now. I always prefer the stuff that I used to listen to when I was a kid, though. That's the difference. But I don't know. I'll be honest. Like, I don't feel like this completely answers your question, but like my friends really like trap music, and a lot of my students like trap music. And I don't even really understand what that genre is, but I'm not a huge fan of it. So I support them. Really all of it. I don't know.
It's just not your thing. Yeah, I was talking to my husband, and I totally agree with him, so I'm gonna say it. But like, I think anything by Billie Eilish right now I cannot understand or comprehend.
I don't even know if I know any of her music. I probably do. I just know her name.
You've probably heard her stuff.
She goes like, "I'm the bad guy." Dee.
Yeah, I don't get that. I have heard that.
You'll have to look it up and then tell me that what you feel, because I feel like every time I've listened to it, it's really just moody, but moody to the extent that I don't know what she's saying.
Oh, I see. Well, because like, okay, I have to say I do like Billie Eilish because I get her style. It's the style of like Gen Z. It's kind of dark, it's moody, it's depressed, but she always has like a really cool message in her music. And she's not about sexualizing woman.
Right.
But like
sure.
I'm just saying, like I can connect, but that might be because I'm younger than you guys by
Mhm.
a little, so I'm like right on the edge of like Gen Z, millennial.
And now here I am, like, I barely even know Billie Eilish, and I'm like, well, maybe I haven't found the song because I obviously don't listen to the radio. Like,
there you
that's
go.
my issue.
That's okay. Yeah, well, now you have to go take a listen and tell us what you think.
I mean,
And I will say something else, which I don't think you guys can relate to, because you guys don't listen to reggaeton at all, correct? So
I don't know.
it's like a Spanish rap, and it's a lot of Bad Bunny, J Balvin, Wisin and Yandel. So I like them a lot, and like it's just really like fun to dance to. But the thing is like I said, you guys won't relate, but I'll play a Bad Bunny for you song one of these days.
Yeah.
And I can't stand Bad Bunny. Like his music, the beats, all that stuff is really good. But when he sings, it sounds like his mouth is full of water. He's just like, and I'm just like, it drives me nuts. Like I'm like, I cannot. So I don't know how he got as far as he did, and I don't know. I don't know. So
See, this is just what happens when you grow up. Things
Yeah.
just become like, in my day.
This is what I want.
we enunciated our words.
Kind of back to like the serious side though. When you're out of college, you move into your own apartment, hopefully at some point. Sometimes you go back and move in with your parents nowadays. Just depends. But if you do live on your own, like learning how to pay rent, being responsible, cleaning, and of course like the taxes and all that stuff, how was it adjusting for you guys? Like, I don't know, doing everything for yourself in a way. Like,
I think like the cleaning, I've always been really clean, so like not really an issue there. Cooking, I definitely had to learn how to do. I feel like even today I'm still learning how to do it. I think we all kind of are. So there's that's a never ending thing. But actually, like, I know that you're talking more like right when you get out of high school, but I would even say like, it's so easy to go for like the microwavable burritos and the dino nuggets and all that kind of stuff, like you buy so many things. It's like, well, this has a ton of nutrients and everything, but so many things are just easy to get. Like I was all about Hamburger Helper actually back in the day. I was like, oh, I can cook some hamburger, that I can handle. So like I was cooking, but not to like the level that we are all at now where it's so much better. Paying rent, I was pretty good at that. Yeah, like I'm really good about stuff until I got a credit card, and that was interesting. But taxes, I feel like I'm still trying to figure that out today.
oh yeah, just for all of our listeners, taxes, the government, you'll never figure it out.
Taxes are difficult. It's okay if they're difficult. Just take your time.
I went to hnrblock.com because actually I just did my taxes. Supposedly I'm going to be getting my return tomorrow. But anyways, and I've gotten I've never owed money, so that's great. But I've gotten like $12 back and 24 like another year. Like not excited at all. I'm like, this is super great. So, I don't look forward to it ever. This year was much better, so I'm much happier about that.
But, what about you, Becca?
Oh, taxes.
Well, not even just taxes.
It's just like PTSD though, like taxes. I had such a bad experience, not this last year, but a year ago, because I was moving from one state to another, and I had worked like 4 part-time jobs during that year, as well as my husband, who also was working like 3 part-time jobs.
Yes.
And we had to do all those taxes and get all of our paperwork. And then Oregon was like, oh, hey, we need some identification from you to make sure. But then we had changed our address, and I had to call somebody. They were making us do more than we actually needed to. All we needed to do was send copy of like our driver's license, but then they were telling us all these other things that didn't
Weird.
make sense. So very overwhelming. So guys, if you're listening, just take a breath, don't get overwhelmed, and talk to a friend that's done taxes
And
for
take
years.
your time, for sure. Do it early.
Yeah, do it early.
Ask questions. I feel like for me, the first time I really lived on my own was after you got married, Becca.
Yeah, I kicked you out. Yeah.
I lived like on my own, in my own apartment for like almost a year, I think. And it was such a freeing experience. But it really like forced me to learn how to do everything by myself. Becca continues to joke about how I mooched off of her when we lived together. She made all the food. I just mooched on the food she made.
Yeah.
What a life.
It was a life. I'm really good at mooching. And she also did a lot of cleaning. Like, she kind of became this obsessive cleaner during that time.
Well, I worked for custodial during that time, so I was just obsessed with cleaning. I was like, cool.
She like did hardcore cleaning, and it was fantastic. And I wouldn't do anything and sat on my butt. So I, the great big sister I am. So once I moved out on my own, I think it really was kind of a slap in the face of like, all right, I need to do this stuff. This is on me and only me now. So,
Yeah.
I mean, to this day, I'm still not like the best at cleaning.
Well, I also want to say when Grace said she moved out on her own, she was 2 floors above us in the apartment complex.
I lived like 3 apartments away from Becca and her husband, so it was great. But I still didn't ask you to make.
Well, you did it on your own.
Yeah, she did. No, I was just saying that because like we still saw each other all the time, but
all this to say, change did take place.
It did.
And things get better.
But it's just to say that there's hope for like people that don't think they can, do things when they're young and on their own. Like you can. Like sometimes you need that little shove of independence.
Yeah.
Okay, what about this one? Talk about your first big adult interview. What happened? How did it go? Was it successful or did you totally bomb it?
I mean, I would say out of like the most important jobs that I've ever had, it would be for when I worked for the school district to be a para. And that meant so much to me because I knew I wanted to be with kids. So I took it super seriously and it went really well. Like it went really well. I was very, punctual, dressed well, all that kind of stuff. Like I did my research beforehand. Actually, Professor Taub at Wenatchee Valley College, I took a few of his classes. I loved him so much. He was always like, do your research beforehand, dress better than those people, all this stuff. And I always like remember all his little gems that he would give at the end of class every day. Loved him so much.
Me too.
And yeah, I did my research, so I already knew who the assistant principals were and the principal was and everything. So that was good. I just know I gave one wrong answer to one thing, and then I kind of changed it like right after because I could just tell from their facial expressions. They asked like if there was a student who like had a mental breakdown or something, like what would I do? Like if they ran out of the classroom and all that stuff. And it's like, well, my first instinct is like to go after them. Like I want to make sure they're okay. And I'm like, but I know I can't leave a whole classroom full of kids alone. So, and then it was fine. But no, it went really well. I got hired quickly after that. They made me do like a math test or something where honestly, I just went in another day and one of the assistant principals apparently used to be a math teacher. He just like put some fraction and percentage and division questions. And I was like, okay. And like just on a piece of paper. And I was like, all right. And he's like, okay, that's good enough. You're hired. And I was like, okay.
Wow. See, that would intimidate me. I think that would be the part that would have thrown me off and I would have totally bombed that part.
Like there's a test?
Like, excuse me?
They told me that I was going to be doing like middle school math or whatever. So best believe I was studying middle school math before that. I was ready.
Well, like,
You go, girl.
I guess kind of on this topic, because this would flow really well into this question, but what are some interviewing tips, just in general, that you would give people?
I would say actually for me, I interview really well. I've done really well in all my interviews, and practically almost any job I've ever interviewed for, I've gotten. Um, and I think though it's because when I get really nervous, I smile a lot. So like when I have no
Oh.
idea what's going on
Just smile.
and I just smile, like I'm just like, no clue what's happening. Like this is a great experience for everyone involved. And so that worked out for me. So, being confident, obviously smiling. I've heard the thing, like to do your confidence pose or something, like in a stall. Like, yeah, you could put like, I guess your Superman or Superwoman pose, but also like people like put their arms in the air or something. I've heard of that. I haven't done it, but get there a little early. I think those are my main things, be positive.
Yeah.
Professor Taub, last thing, and at some point you guys will also be a part of this podcast. But Professor Taub, he had also said that whenever they ask you your weakness, like to always give them a weakness, but show them how it can be a strength. So his was always, and I love that one. I'm like, Professor Taub, I still use you to this day. He's so great. He was saying like he's a terrible speller, and he's like, but because I'm a terrible speller, I know I have to use spell check, and I have people proofread my stuff before I send it, like emails or things that I write, documents, all that kind of stuff. So he's like, so I know of my weakness, I'm aware of it, and I don't let it take over.
Nice.
Genius. And mine's like, I'm a perfectionist, so I know I need to like slow down and like understand like the most important things and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
But I think like some of my tips for interviews, I would definitely agree with all the things that you said. Practice learning how to talk about yourself. I think that's a really big thing, like learning how to actually speak to your strengths and your weaknesses, but specifically your strengths, in the sense that a lot of people these days aren't really good at talking about themselves and talking about yourself in like a very positive light. And so that was really helpful. And I'm also like a really big personality test nerd. So like Strengths Finder, love it. Myers-Briggs, Enneagram.
And Grace though too, like you're a person that really prepares for interviews.
Oh my God, I like go so hard that I feel like I'm gonna die. I interviewed for probably 10 different places prior to where I'm at now. Yeah, it was a lot of work.
It's like my interview style is very much like, I want to be authentic. I don't want to plan ahead too much. I want to go in and be like, oh, let me think about that, because then they know I'm a thoughtful person, because like if I'm so prepared that it just spurts off like this,
that you give a whole essay answer.
Yeah, but here we are. I have a really great job that I love. And Becca's working too, and I think you love that. I think you're enjoying it.
Yeah, it's good.
So I feel like over time, kind of as you get to know yourself, the way that you see the world and life changes. And so I'm curious for both of you, what would you consider to be your adult mantra or motto or key phrase or whatever you want to call it?
I think like mine generally is just like, everybody's different. And like I can't project anything on anybody, just like they can't project anything on me. I think that's what it is. I feel like it's come up a lot in life through past relationships, even work relationships, like just dealing and interacting with other people. A lot with my students when I was interacting with them a lot, like if I'd get them in trouble for something because they did something they weren't supposed to, and I'd put them in steps. Sometimes, they like know they did wrong and they do what they have to do, but other times they'd get really upset. And I was telling you about this, Grace, I think the other day. Yeah. And they'd get really upset to the point like they're in tears and they're ignoring me. They don't want to talk to me and stuff. When I have to talk to them about, the choices that they made, I'm like, well, how do you feel? Like, tell me how you feel. Like, you could be so angry with me right now. You can hate me right now. Like, whatever. Just tell me how you feel. Like, I'm going to accept how you feel. I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. I can't tell you you're wrong by feeling a certain way, but like, let's figure it out together and work it out and figure out like what we're going to do. So I just think like, everybody comes from different cultures, different life experiences, different this, that. So I think that's just what it is. Like everybody's so different. And I was actually just talking to my friend last night or this morning. I think it was probably this morning. Anyways, just about how like different cultures, they do stuff differently, which we all know. And like that doesn't mean that they're wrong, just because our culture sees it wrong, or our religions that we subscribe to see it as wrong, doesn't mean that it's wrong, because that's all they've known. And that doesn't mean that I want to necessarily take part in it, but at the same time, like it's just, I think everybody's different.
What are you thinking, Becca? Because I can tell your gears are turning.
Well, like, it's not so much of a mantra as much as a question I just continually ask myself if, like, I'm seeing things solely from my own perspective. I just ask myself why a lot. Like, if someone comes at me, and kind of makes you feel a little attacked, a little, or kind of scared, like, I think, well, why? Why do I feel this way? And then it's like, well, it's because they're trying to, like, make me feel something. So I don't really need to feel that. Or, like, why am I, in this interview today? Like, for example, if I'm nervous, I'll be like, well, why am I nervous? Why am I here? I'm here because, I need this job, or, like, I'm nervous because I really want this job, so that's a good thing that I'm nervous. So, like, just asking myself why a lot helps me figure out and put things more into perspective. Like, it's okay that I feel this, and it's okay that other people are feeling what they're feeling. It just kind of gets me aligned, I guess.
Yeah. You also are somebody who does, like, ask. You're very curious.
Yeah.
And you want, and you love learning things.
Yes, I do.
So that makes a lot of sense. For me, I really resonate with what you said, Adri. Especially like recently. But I also think probably something that's been more permanent long term for me is this just thought of just like keep going, and just like almost just like pushing through and just getting through things. I know this can be looked at as sometimes being negative, because then it's just like, oh, you're just doing it so you can just reach the end goal. Which I think there are times where, like, yes, you are doing something to achieve an end goal, but there are a lot of times where it's like you're pursuing something, the journey's really crappy, and it takes like a lot of hard work and persistence. But I really think keep going, that persistence, you can do it, don't quit kind of thing.
I agree with that so much on so many levels, and I think it's great. I think the questioning why as well, because it's like you're getting a better understanding of everything around you too. But yeah, I completely agree with that, because even then, if you're talking about just like trying to get to the end goal, and it's like, well, not really, because there's always something after that or during, and like all this stuff is never ending. Adulting is never ending. Like
adulting never ends.
Something.
It's forever. It's true. Oh my goodness. I know. And the thing I realize is like it only gets harder. Like even as you learn each and every day, I feel like something starts to come easier to you and you're like, oh my gosh, I've mastered this. I figured this out. But then something new comes along and you're like, oh my gosh, what?
Yeah, you're like, wait, I have to buy a car now because my car broke down.
Or health.
Exactly.
Understanding your health and your body, or like insurance and all these things that you're like, what?
No. Yeah, insurance and taxes are both headaches.
Yeah, and I remember, so I actually had like a medical thing come up, as you guys know. I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, and you just kind of don't know what you're not getting yourself into, because it just happened. but like, you don't know what it all entails. And I understand medical insurance so much more now because I had to, like, I had no other choice. And so now, this last year when we were all signing up for medical insurance, so many people are like, well, I don't know about this or this. And I'm like, well, actually, and here I am like a pro on medical insurance now. I'm like, well, no, like your deductible is this, it's not this. And so, I mean, yeah, it just like when it comes up, it comes up. And Becca, the fact that you brought up the car, I cannot tell you how much I've dealt with my car in the last 2 weeks.
Oh
I just,
no. Oh
oh my
no.
goodness. And I was even thinking, I'm like, at some point, I'm going to be bringing this topic in, and I'm glad you brought it up. I will just let you know, my car got a safety recall, so I took it to Ford, for the day, whatever, got that taken care of. But then they sent me some messages, and it's like, your car needs immediate like servicing, and it's going to cost $666 for these 3 services. And I'm like, what do you mean? And I know a little bit about cars, not a lot. I mean, I actually got like a book on cars, so I know a little bit. I ended up deciding on doing 1 or 2 of the services, and so it ended up costing me $440 and the safety recall. And the other service was like to change the coolant, and I'm like, there's no way changing the coolant is $200. And I had gotten a hold of a Jiffy Lube, and they do it for $140. So I was like, forget that. Yeah, I'm going to Jiffy Lube. And then I talked to my mom, and she said that her mechanic does it for $90. So I'm in Wenatchee, and they're going to do my coolant tomorrow.
Yay.
So
Cars
adulting, it's always one thing after another. I'm like, oh, I'm just going to go for the safety recall. Oh, it's just for the engine oil. Oh, it's just the windshield. Oh, it's just leaking. No, there's a nail in your tire. Like, okay, all right, that's fine.
Let's fix this.
I hate cars. You love them, but hate them.
Yeah. Well, like Adrianna, I've spent like $500 on my car this year already too.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Like there were just things that needed fixed, and I had to take it in twice in the last 4 months to just get it up to speed. It's my car to get to work, so I want it to be good.
Well, should we find a good question to like wrap up with?
What's on your bucket list?
What's on your adult bucket list?
Things that you just have always wanted to do.
Maybe. I feel like this is kind of ridiculous, but like, I want to be a teacher. Like, does that count?
Yeah, I think that's great.
Yes, I very much want to do that. I'm very close. I think about it, I have like a year and a half left. And then there is, I've always wanted to go to Greece. So yeah, Greece would be amazing. And my third one, I think I just, want to like have my own home with like a family, like a garden and all that kind of stuff. Maybe own a duck. Who knows? That's all one together. Yes.
Oh my gosh. We'll have to visit for the duck.
Yes.
I would visit for the duck.
I love it.
You could visit me too, but I understand visiting.
I kind of want to.
It better have a cute name like Professor Quackers or something. Like,
I mean, my last 2 ducks were Jeffrey and Delilah.
Oh, that's
pretty
adorable.
cute.
So yeah, just trust me.
You're like, I put a lot of time into this.
Yes. What about you? Yeah, what's going on?
I also want to go to Europe at some point. That is on my bucket list.
One day.
I really just want to go to the museums there because I love all that.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And food is also a plus, so that too. I also would like my own place at some point with a pet, like a place that allows pets. Like that would be on my bucket list.
One day. Are you gonna actually have a pet in the pet place?
Like either a bunny or a dog, probably. Who knows yet? We're still debating. Zach and
I was gonna say, if it was a bunny, then we're gonna have like an Easter theme going around here with our pets.
So cute.
Yes. Aw, and I guess I don't really know. I guess I would just say like paying off student loans. I know that's a bucket list item, but I'm looking forward to it.
That's such an adult bucket list item, Becca. Very fitting. I think for me, one of my first items on my bucket list is to go to New York and see a Broadway show on the Broadway stage.
Ooh, that's nice.
I've always
Which
wanted to
show?
see a show. Wicked is like my absolute favorite, so I feel like I would totally go see that. Or Mamma Mia. I love Mamma Mia, which I've already said this before. I love that too.
But would you see Mamma Mia 1 or Mamma Mia 2?
There's only one Mamma Mia Broadway version, so it's the
okay.
first one.
This is
Yeah, there's only one.
So-
Second, I feel like I want to go to Hawaii. I've never actually been, and I know it sounds really just basic, but I've never been to Hawaii, and I think that'd be really nice.
Yeah.
One day. And then
Yeah, think hard about this.
I'm sorry. I should
I mean,
have thought of
Both of our third ones were very adultish, like
Yeah.
having a family in my own home and paying off student loans.
Oh gosh, I don't know. I feel like for me, my next bucket list item is going to grad school at some point in time.
Ooh,
That's awesome.
cool.
I still don't know what I'm gonna do
Well,
or
that's
where it's gonna be,
okay.
but it is a goal of mine to go to grad school.
Yeah, you're just going back to high school again.
No.
Where you're like, what am I gonna do?
No. Although there is the student loan debt that is still paying off, but it gets deferred when you go to grad school. So.
Exactly.
Yup. So
There you go.
anyway.
Well, we are gonna wrap this episode up, but thank you so much, Adrianna, for joining us today. It was a pleasure having you and getting to talk to you just about life in general.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, thank you. I'm so glad I got to be here. So thank you. And I look forward to listening to so many more of your podcasts and seeing your parents right now.
Yes. I hope you have a great time.
I will.
Well, bye everybody. Thanks for listening.
See you next time.
Bye.